What a pleasant surprise.
Mr. Lee!
Excellent.
Welcome to Watch Mojo, and today we're counting down our picks for the top 10 worst animated movies based on video games.
Whoa. Robots? Isn't that a little bit weird?
Don't ask me.
For this list, we'll be looking at the worst film adaptations of beloved gaming stories. Which of these movies made you want to rage quit the most? Let us know in the comments down below. Number 10, Injustice. Injustice: Gods Among Us. NetherRealm Studios' 2013 brawler has one of the most ambitious narratives of any fighting game to date. After the Joker tricks Superman into slaying his wife, the Man of Steel kills the clown and becomes a tyrant. Although the game had time to flesh out the nuances of this dark world, the movie didn't.
Your parents were murdered, Bruce. They couldn't be there for you. What's your excuse?
The adaptation leaves out a lot of major details from the game, while adding in confusing subplots instead. Although the voice cast does a great job portraying the heroes, the protagonist makes so many annoying decisions that they're hard to like. While 2021's Injustice isn't unwatchable, playing its namesake video game story mode is a much better experience.
No one is talking me out of this. Not even you. Yeah, we can be stubborn sometimes.
Number 9, Tekken Blood Vengeance. Tekken franchise. We'll be the first to admit that Tekken Blood Vengeance features some truly outstanding action sequences. However, that was one of the film's few strengths.
Huh? Your head! I have been programmed to destroy you.
Despite having nearly 2 decades of lore to pull from, the movie tries to make an original story. The plot is kicked into gear when 2 rival corporations go after a completely original character. What followed was a confusing mess of undercover work, baffling twists, and a story thread about immortality. The convoluted narrative made the complex video game history of the Mishima family seem simple. In the end, the filmmakers would have been better off focusing on fight scenes in a tournament story than going for a plot we're still trying to wrap our heads around.
Excellent.
Number 8, Heavenly Sword. Heavenly Sword. When this film tried too hard to be a faithful adaptation, the results were anything but heavenly. The studio brought in most of the game's voice cast, repeated certain story beats, and even reused some of the same assets and textures as the game itself. This made the entire experience feel like a long-winded video game cutscene. Unfortunately, the story of protagonist Nariko's journey with a mystical sword isn't that compelling. The narrative is full of cliches and predictable turns. And as the years have gone on, the animation style has continued to age poorly. In the end, being able to play Heavenly Sword is 1,000 times more fun than watching the movie. Number 7, Mortal Kombat Legends, Battle of the Realms, Mortal Kombat franchise. Some fighting game adaptations suffer because they don't include enough beloved characters, but this Mortal Kombat movie has the exact opposite problem.
I've come to negotiate a surrender.
The tiny humans wish to surrender.
After starting with mainstays like Liu Kang and Raiden, the film crams in about 20 other named characters. Trying to fit their personalities, twists, and deaths into under 90 minutes was an instant fatality to the movie's potential. It doesn't help that the movie moves at a breakneck pace to get everyone on screen. Despite containing a few violent and edgy fight scenes, Battle of the Realms plays it frustratingly safe with the tried and true tournament narrative. Fortunately, there are enough genuinely good Mortal Kombat movies for fans that they don't have to finish Battle of the Realms. Number 6, Dragon Quest, Your Story, Dragon Quest V. While translating this RPG to the big screen, the writers seem to keep all the key elements. Everything from the plot to the characters was kept pretty intact. Unfortunately, the writers couldn't capture it all in one go.
Robots? Isn't that a little bit weird?
Don't ask me.
There was just no way to fully adapt the sprawling story of Dragon Quest V into a 2-hour film. As a result, Your Story blitzes through plot points at a comical pace. It then quickly resolves everything it sets up with a ham-fisted and unsatisfying ending.
We did it! We saved the world!
Suffice it to say, this isn't Dragon Quest V in any way that counts. One of the greatest RPGs of all time deserves so much better.
This is as real as it gets.
Number 5, Ratchet & Clank, Ratchet & Clank franchise. It's almost impressive to make a movie that seemingly no one likes.
That was a close one, huh?
I want a refund!
Both critics and audiences agreed that this film based on the Sony franchise wasn't built well. Instead, the series liftoff to the big screen immediately flew into an asteroid field of cliches.
They are in danger. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Hey, who's in danger?
It's full of generic threats of planetary destruction and selfish heroes. While the video game franchise is often praised for its sense of humor, the movie barely inspired a single chuckle. And it also failed to capture what really works about Ratchet & Clank's dynamic.
Fortunately, my piloting skills are, shall we say, slightly underdeveloped.
Yeah, I think we can definitely agree on that.
To make matters worse, the movie was supposed to mark a comeback for the Gramercy Pictures Company. But after the film's failure, the company closed its doors. Ouch!
Speaking of which, am I to assume that you have retired?
Number 4, Tekken the Motion Picture, Tekken franchise. This 1990s Tekken film didn't have much of a fighting chance. Although the games it's based on have a distinct visual identity, the movie looks painfully generic. It gets even worse when the characters speak and you get awful dialogue and lackluster voice dubbing.
Words like justice and truth are empty concepts that have led societies through cancerous histories. Through the ages, those who have blindly believed in these absolute truths have fought and died over empty platitudes.
On top of those major drawbacks, the main protagonists don't really capture the spirits of their game counterparts. Kazuya and Jun especially feel like cheap copies of their much better and complex originals.
Dumb animals.
While we could have forgiven these missteps if the fight scenes were interesting, the action sequences are yet another source of disappointment. The fights are slow-paced and make most of the cast look silly. We wouldn't blame anyone for skipping this King of Iron Fist tournament. Number 3, Final Fantasy, The Spirits Within, Final Fantasy franchise. If any video game adaptation should have worked, it was this one. After all, the film spent 4 long years in production and was helmed by the creator of the entire Final Fantasy series. The years of work definitely showed in its groundbreaking photorealistic animation. Unfortunately, all that spectacle came at the cost of the story.
I'm not just making a hole in the ground, I'm killing the planet.
Not only was the plot confusing and poorly paced, but the intense lean into the sci-fi angle completely missed the fantasy part of Final Fantasy. As a result, it's hard to recommend to either newcomers or longtime fans. If anything, this film's complete critical and commercial failure hurts all the worse because it could have been so much more. Number 2, Samurai Showdown, the motion picture, Samurai Showdown. The first Samurai Showdown game was definitely more well known for its incredible gameplay and not its story. That's why it was so baffling that it got a film adaptation a year after its debut.
I've got you now! Yeah!
During the movie, writers attempt to tell the story of a complex conflict that involves reincarnated soldiers seeking to take down an evil deity. But there's so much lore to dig through that it's hard to get into. Unfortunately, the action scenes aren't that great on their own either. The fights are full of questionable choreography and extremely odd edits. Most of the clashes are so silly that they lack real tension. If your viewing experience isn't miserable enough, try watching the So Bad It's Bad English dub of this bizarre adaptation.
We're not scared of you anymore!
Before we continue, be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos. You have the option to be notified for occasional videos or all of them. If you're on your phone, make sure you go into your settings and switch on notifications.
Number 1, the Angry Birds movie, Angry Birds franchise. You would think one of the most mainstream games of the 21st century would fly a bit higher than this. Granted, that's not entirely the birds' fault. After all, even the enemy pigs could have realized that basing an entire movie on a mobile game was a bad idea.
And a wall, and a... Whoa!
Take that, porkers!
Boom, baby, boom!
The movie unsurprisingly fails to weave a complex narrative out of an extremely simple bird launching game. Although the script tries to launch tons of jokes, none of them really hit the target. But the movie's biggest failure centers around its cast.
He's gotta have the eggs with him in the castle.
What the heck's a castle?
And that's where we're going.
It completely wastes A-list talent like Jason Sudeikis, Kate McKinnon, Bill Hader, and more. None of them could help Angry Birds soar when it fell out of its nest and onto audiences.
Boom, baby, boom!
Well, how about that? My teacher can shoot fireballs out of her butt.
Did you enjoy this video? Check out these other clips from WatchMojo, and be sure to subscribe and ring the bell to be notified about our latest videos.